I used to love the hustle culture. You know the script: rise and grind, outwork everyone, sleep when you're dead. And that, it worked for me as a student. But then my work changed and it started. Writing one paper after another, one grand deadline after another, and dealing with the daily email avalanche. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, and what would have moved me forward just was stuck. And that's when it hit me. You don't fall back onto your aspirations or your dreams. You default to your systems. And everyone has a system. It's the average Tuesday that really reveals what you're doing. So I decided I need to stop and actively design my life. Today, I want to share with you what actually worked. When I say everyone has a system, think about it. Every morning when you wake up, do you first grab your phone? Do you check your inbox before breakfast? Or accept every meeting by default? That pattern is a system, and we all have it. The problem with this system is that it's littered with constant reactivity to other people's priority, not yours. What we end up with at the end of the day is usually just guilt. That's when I realized I was asking the wrong question. It's not about how can I be more disciplined. It's about how must my system change to actually move me forward. 3 moves made a difference for me. It was external constraints, deep work blocks, and micro checklists. If you've seen my other videos, you probably know the almost done paper story. It was a first author draft that I was just stuck on. The paper remained nearly finished, and still to this day is nearly finished. And I wish I would have made one small change. Just an email to a co-author with a small promise. Hey, I'll send you a rough results draft by Wednesday. It's gonna be messy, but the structure is there. That's probably all it would have taken. One specific person and one specific date. This constraint quietly changes everything. It's a real deadline that now exists, and there's someone who notices if you're actually missing it. But it's not just about the time pressure. Setting a goal like this makes the target feel psychologically so much smaller, and doing nothing becomes very uncomfortable. And what that also means, you now have a time frame. If you promise something by next week Wednesday, you plug this week's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. Simple example would be from 9 to 9:45. It doesn't always need to be an 8-hour time slot. Small compounding effects matter. And if your office gets too busy at that time already, you can go to a library, a coffee shop, or just find a quiet table in the building. Importantly, just no emails, and put it in your calendar as a meeting with yourself. Now, it doesn't need to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the exact same time. The details can be flexible, but the principles should be fixed. You can shrink the days or the minutes, change the location, whatever currently works. The key idea though is you have recurring protected slots. No matter what time slot you pick, the work that you actually need to get done becomes a ritual. And what helps with that are micro checklists. These are just tiny scripts to start and end whatever you're doing. This could be as simple as open the file that you're working on, scroll to the last work section, and just write down today's focus. Once you've started that, the rest becomes so much easier. And if you want to make it even easier for yourself, at the end of your time slot, you just note down the next step in bold, what you need to do. You save the file, you close it on purpose, but more importantly, the future you will know where to continue. For me, that lowered the friction so much for the next writing block, it became almost too easy. Now, this doesn't only apply to writing, it can apply to anything. For example, coding or an analysis pipeline. Quite often, when we need to do something like this, we're stuck with something that's half working, but mostly broken. Things are made harder with constant interruptions throughout the day and confusing script versions or random files scattered around. It becomes hard to remember what changed last time, and so it becomes very tempting to avoid opening the project at all. And the steps we just talked about, you can actually apply it to this. Give yourself a small constraint, a commitment. Add the pipeline for a lab agenda or tell a collaborator or friend you want to talk about this. 2 weeks from now, you're just giving a rough walkthrough and you show whatever exists, no matter the state it's in. Visibility becomes a very gentle pressure that actually moves you forward. Once you made a promise like this, all you need is dedicated time blocks. It doesn't need to be a large chunk. It could be Tuesday or Thursday afternoons, just from 2 to 3 o'clock. But in that time, you only do pipeline work. You don't open your inbox, you avoid meetings. Treat it like a teaching level priority, something that just needs to get done because other people depend on it. And as a next step, you can create analysis micro checklists. This could be as simple as just confirming you're working on the right data. The data is actually in the folder where you think it is, and then you open the most recent script. Once that is open, you log today's date and the goal, and then you run or debug a single step. not more. At the end of the day, you record the changes and the remaining questions, and you close it and you're done. Now, while these examples so far were small, this system just scales across all of our work. The same is true, for example, for a grant proposal, which can take weeks or months to develop. But this applies to everything, even something more routine, such as teaching or answering emails. Your teaching prep gets a standard routine. Your emails will be handled in fixed windows. Less of a putting out fires and more into a predictable rhythm, which gradually moves you away from the reactive life and allows you to actively design yours. Grind alone might get you 90% there, but it's the last 10% that make you stand out. And that's what you need systems for. For me, Grind alone just couldn't match the complexity of my work. The systems that I introduced, however, made progress much more predictable. It's not perfect, but reliable. Like I mentioned before, the compound effect matters. It's the small pieces of work that stack together to build a visible career. And even better, when real life catches up, you'll be falling back onto a real system. Chaos and fatigue, unfortunately, are everywhere. They're just constants, and your aspiration only gets you so far. So make sure you fall back on a life that you designed and build a system future that you trust.